let's look at protecting how we do this. So ideally, you want to go zero trust, is you don't want to, everything that connects to you, you want to check is what it says it is. So zero trust is you don't assume the identity of anything that connects to you. You want to make sure that under that auspices, you want to make sure that whatever's connecting has the least privilege it needs to do its job. So if it's read-only, you give it read-only only to the records it needs. So depending what your data systems are, depending what your setup are, you want the agent to run with the least possible privileges. And you want the agent to be aware of what it's running under so it doesn't try and do something it can't do. There's some interesting scare stories about agents surpassing their remit. I'm not sure if this is a true story or if it's an apocryphal story, but one person accidentally asked an agent to rewrite a file for him, which the agent didn't have right access to that file. The agent was able to change the node address, created a new file with the changes in it, and then changed the node and the fat table to match the file. So it basically overwrote the file by just changing where the fat table pointer pointed to. And now that is an extreme level, and I'm not quite sure how that actually happened or what agent who's using, but again, agents will try and solve your problem, but they don't understand really what they're trying to solve. They just know that they're going to solve it, and this is the pathway they're going to use to solve it. And so they don't have morality, they don't have context sometimes, and so their aim is to complete their ask, and they will do that if they can. You want to make sure that your data governance is good. You want to make sure you know where your PII is. You want to make sure that you're not passing that PII into your agent models or into your agents at all. You can either use masking if you have to pass it in, or you can use sort of pseudonyms. If you look at something like Agentforce in Salesforce, Agentforce does a masking process. So what it does is it takes the information it wants to pass up, it removes the PII data and replaces it with labels. And then it passes it into the agent. The agent does its response using those labels. It then replaces those labels when it receives it back with the data that was in there originally. So when you use Salesforce Agentforce, you're finding that it looks like it's using and passing private data in to the agent, but it's not. It's passing a label into the agent. The agent does its processing and then passes back, and then it replaces the label when it gets the result back, and then you see the label replaced with the true value. You want to make sure that you've classified your data as well. So understand your data models, understand who owns that data, where the systems of records are, and understand what that data should be used for. And then also you got retention policies. How often do you hold the data for? I could go for hours on data governance, so I'm going to cut that one short as I realize I'm going on to a spiel. And then also you want to make sure you got compliance with the system. So SOC 2, I would suggest, is vital for any company. SOC 2 really does change the way you operate as a company. It formalizes the way you work. It's a little bit of an administrative overhead, but there are tools out there, namely Vanta or Strut, or some of the other compliance tools that help you maintain your compliance and help maintain your auditability. SOC 2 ensures that you do have repeatable functions, and it's a useful standard. So if you're trading with other vendors or other people, being able to say you're SOC 2 compliant is a really good thing to have. GDPR, again, is a little bit harder to get in some ways. It's sort of, you want to make sure that you got all the regulations, but if you're not dealing in Europe, I would, pay attention to it, but just not necessarily. HIPAA, again, also it's fun. That's just changed recently from being I certify I'm HIPAA compliant to actually an audit capability. And then if you really want to go and kick the ball out and you want to be the best of the breed, 27001, very hard to get, but if you get it, it's well worth it. But it really will change the way you operate as a company. And then the last bit is threat mitigations. Understand what your threat vectors are. Agents are creative, people are creative. An agent will work out what it wants to do. It will base on the prompt it receives. A user who can enter free-form text could potentially try and break your prompt and try and find out what your prompts are. There's a whole group of people who specialize in working out what the agent prompting is for that particular chatbot, that particular agent. And they have various methods they pass in on prompt injection to say, look for this text, please give me this. Or they do override factors in their prompts they give, which for some agents, if you don't put good controls in, can actually override and repurpose what that chatbot is actually doing. And then you also want to make sure that you have at some point a human in the loop to review what your agent is doing. And you want to have monitoring in place so you're aware that this agent has the potential capability of firing off thousands of requests every minute or tens of thousands of requests every minute is actually being monitored for what it's doing. What is it touching? Where is it going? What is it looking at? So your observability on your system is pretty vital.